Good day and welcome to the inaugural episode of The Driving Force, a production of the Louisiana Transportation Research Center. My name is Todd Blunt and I'm joined today by my co-host, Garrett Wheat.
Hello.
We are thrilled that you have chosen to join us as we embark on this new endeavor to highlight what's driving change in Louisiana transportation. For the past 38 years, LTRC has merged the resources of state government and Louisiana universities to identify, develop, and implement new technology to enhance the transportation system of our great state and beyond. This work is expansive, it's far-reaching, and it is our aim through this new podcast to provide you with a richer understanding of what we do, how we do it, and why it matters for both the present and the future of the state of Louisiana. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we will be joined by a very special guest who will introduce us to one of the primary functions of LTRC, technology transfer and training. Welcome back. As we mentioned before the break, one of LTRC's major activities is technology transfer and training. We seek to provide a broad range of resources and opportunities that are needed to benefit the transportation community of our state and beyond. So to tell us more about that work, we're privileged to welcome our Associate Director of Technology Transfer and Training, Dr. Leah Coco. Welcome.
Thank you.
Leah, why don't you begin by telling our listeners a little bit about your background, education, and career journey? How did you come to be in this world of technology transfer and training at LTRC?
Well, I actually started with a background in English and Latin, and my mom asked me what I was going to do with that in a career. And my first job was involved with working with a bunch of different individuals and actually security. And one of my first bosses had her master's degree in workforce development. So I figured that I would take a stab at it, and through that, I ended up working for the CPTP program, teaching classes statewide, which landed me partnering with DOTD, being the primary instructor for all of their classes for the agency. And fast forward to almost 16 years ago, coming to LTRC full-time.
The work of our team here at LTRC is pretty broad. We train a bunch of different people in an array of different areas. Can you give our listeners a summary of the different training initiatives that happen in and through LTRC and how it benefits DOTD's 4,000 plus employees statewide?
Well, one of the most visible things that we do is our transportation conference. So I think it's a misnomer to think that all we do is event planning, when that's actually less than about 10% of what we do. We're divided into some key programmatic areas. We have internal training, external training, the local technical assistance program, publications, and we have an amazing IT team along with a technology transfer engineer. And through those programs, we're dedicated to addressing certain concerns, closing knowledge gaps, but we're also responsible not just for DOTD, but for the transportation community as a whole. And through these initiatives, you have to think about it not just in only the classroom, but how do you develop the employee as a whole. So when you come to a state agency, what do you need to know to do your job safely and effectively and efficiently? How do you plan for that? What does a career path look like? What if you want to change career path? Is there a way to help employees go from one path to another? What other partners can you have outside of DOTD, the National Highway Institute, specific software? The list goes on and on. There's never one day that's the same here in Section 33. Every day is different. We get to work on key projects, partner with different sections. I like to say, other than human resources, we're probably the only other section that gets to interact with all 4,319 TO for the department, which is a really unique opportunity. We're also a really good conduit for the transportation community because we get to see different transportation partners come through our T-Tech building on a daily basis. So we have relationships that span beyond DOTD, which can be beneficial when you're working on special projects. And so in terms of the benefits specifically for employees, you have to ask yourself, what is the cost of not providing workforce development to an employee? Are there resources online that you could probably find yourself? Well, of course, absolutely. My husband thinks he can do anything just by looking at it on YouTube, and he does a lot of it successfully. But DOTD is so specific in how we do certain things. There's a lot of things that you can't do by just looking online.
Sure.
So we tailor what we're going to do and how we're going to look at workforce development through that particular lens, and also through nationwide standards, AASHTO standards, USD standards, FHWA, and where do those align with our state specifications and how we can implement those.
How many people would you say the work of LTRC and all the different program sections touches on an annual basis, just estimate?
Well, just in our external programs that is led by Rebecca Rizzuto, we had over 8,000 individuals statewide just last fiscal year. You know, internal training, they're impacting. So we have 4,319 positions authorized for DOTD. Right now we have about 4,200 filled statewide. So make the assumption that you have just one interaction with each employee
for sure.
per year, which you're clearly having more than one interaction. So we have district training coordinators positioned around the state, 2 in each district, so 18 critical partners that help LTRC that we couldn't do what we do without our district training coordinators. So maybe multiply that by 2. I mean, you're close to, 10,000 interactions just with the internal training side. Our LTAP partner, that particular program did over 12,000 hours, contact hours last fiscal year. So, I mean, the numbers just go on and on and on in terms of the reach and the impact of what we're doing.
Is there something, how many years have you been at LTRC now?
Going into my 16th year here at LTRC and 23rd year in public service.
Wow. As you think back over that span of time, and I know so much has changed in the workforce development world, in the world of communication, just in how information gets disseminated. But as you think back over that time, are there any accomplishments professionally or for our center as a whole that you're particularly proud of or that you hold on to and say, man, I feel like we've really made our state better through this?
Well, we're a gold standard. I mean, just LTRC in general, our center is a nationwide best standard for what we do. But our section really just, if I look back to when I started working with LTRC in my first role when I was teaching classes statewide through the CPTP program, that was in 2004. I mean, if I look at my life, I mean, I didn't have a child, I wasn't married, my life is in a totally different space. Just how we deliver material is completely different. The learners are completely different. But in terms of accomplishments, I think the fact that we're always looking at a more innovative way and a more progressive way to do things, that we're not satisfied with the status quo. And when I say innovative, it doesn't necessarily have to be technology, but what can we do that is going to improve the quality of employment and retention and provide value to the department overall. And we want LTRC not only to be a great place to work every single day, but that when other individuals in the department see LTRC, come through their inbox, or they're coming to a class here or in a district, that they know that what they're going to receive is going to actually add value to their jobs every day. And sometimes they can take what they're learning in a class to their personal life. If you're taking the emotional intelligence class that Garrett taught originally and that Marcus teaches now, that can impact your life as a whole, give you an idea of how to read people and how to react in different situations, what is your emotional quotient and what is your EI overall. And we really think about not just what is the short term, but what is the long term and how can we get there. We can't anticipate everything, but I think we've done a really good job of seeing where the workforce trends are and being able to sift out what is kind of the, hate to say, like hip or the fluff that's going to go away, and what is actually grounded and meaningful and purposeful that we should be using here.
It's that posture of continuous improvement.
What do you see on the horizon of technology transfer and training? Like, how is our field shifting and growing, and what can we do at LTRC to continue serving the transportation community?
I think the outside sees the field shifting in terms of more technology. How can we make everything virtual? How can I eliminate face-to-face? What is AI going to do? But I think that that's our job to identify what has merit to it, and where can we use those tools and resources to supplant what we're doing. Because you can't take the human element out of what we do. DOTD has an extremely diverse workforce. That is one thing that is just so unique and such a blessing that you don't get in every industry, that you have a wide span of experience, knowledge, and just Louisiana as a state is diverse. From North Louisiana all the way down to the bayou, it's a completely different culture sometimes. So we have to figure out what is going to be of value to the department and also the transportation community, because again, we have to remember we've got our industry partners, we've got our universities, we have local governments, we've got our federal partners. So, our legislation gives us that charge that we have to consider the entire transportation community, and that is a big ask when you're thinking of the entire transportation community. But you have to resist going down the rabbit hole of following the crowd. That we have to remember that we have to be set apart and do our due diligence and not fall prey to say, okay, well, this is really cool, this is really exciting, let's just jump on that bandwagon and figure out how we can just use the tools and resources and improve upon what we're doing.
Sure.
Take the suggestions and modify what needs to be modified, not be resistant to change, because change is everywhere around you. And also look to other state DOTs when we can that are potentially ahead of us in some areas. Some states are doing amazing things with knowledge management, and we've used them as our best practices of how we're going to do that here in Louisiana. So knowing areas that we can grow in and using proper benchmarks while not just hopping on a trend just because it's a trend.
Yeah. So you mentioned AI. I heard a quote the other day. It said, AI helps customers connect with businesses, but you still need a human in the middle. So be the human.
Yeah, I don't want us to be a bunch of chat bots.
Yeah.
If we turn into chat bots over here and we don't know how to think, and we don't know how to interpret policy, and we don't understand the material that we're delivering, and we don't understand how to build relationships. Relationships are what matter. And not a transactional relationship, like a true, meaningful relationship. Not with just people in our section, but in the department as a whole. Do you actually know that person at Section 27? And do you have the ability to pick up the phone, and are you going to have a conversation just about what you need, and then when you hang up the phone, that's it? Or are you going to be able to build that relationship to where it's something meaningful and purposeful? And if that person leaves Section 27, you still have a go-to. That's the root of any positive organizational culture or anything productive that you're going to accomplish within a section or within a department is based on a healthy, productive relationship. And relationships are what ultimately matters. And you can't do that with being a chatbot.
Well, Mary Leah, thank you so much for giving us just a fantastic introduction into the exciting work happening every day here at LTRC. Before we go, we have one more order of business. We want to have a little bit of fun with you. Garrett has prepared a few final questions in a segment we call the lightning round. Garrett, take it away.
So Mary Leah, in case nobody knows, is famous for having a candy bowl that is in her office and brought to a lot of meetings. But maybe outside of candy, what would you say is your go-to snack in the middle of a long day at work?
Okay, well, I also don't like the candy that I put in there, and I do that on
purpose.
I do that on purpose, so I don't eat the candy. But my favorite go-to snack would be the Smart Food white cheddar popcorn.
Okay.
That's the black bag?
That's the black bag.
Okay.
That Somebody also, I don't know who it is, loves between these two buildings because I feel like I'm at war with them sometimes because like we're running to get the bags out of the vending machine.
If you could vacation anywhere in the world, where would you go?
Any place with a beach.
There's a lot of beaches.
A beach that I could drive to.
Okay. There's a few. Close.
Yeah.
All right, last question. What relatively unknown artist should everyone add to their Spotify rotation?
Ooh, Peabody.
Peabody. Mm-hmm. Spell that.
Peabod.
Peabody. Okay. I'm gonna check that out.
I've heard him.
One of my favorite songs is Lemonade.
Lemonade by Peabody. It's a good summer soundtrack. Well, thanks, Mary Leah, for taking some time today to share with our listeners more about what you and our awesome team does here at LTRC. We're excited to learn more about many of the specific projects and initiatives happening here at the center in future episodes. We'll step away for just a moment before we wrap things up. Well, that about does it for episode 1 of The Driving Force, a production of the Louisiana Transportation Research Center. You can learn more about the projects and people of LTRC by visiting us online at ltrc.lsu.edu and on social media through Facebook, X, LinkedIn, and YouTube. There is a wealth of fascinating content featured on each of these platforms. Next time, we'll be diving into the world of education outreach, so you won't want to miss out on that. Until then, we are your hosts, Todd Blunt and Garrett Wheat, and we thank you so much for joining us again today. Drive safely out there.